Awesome. Thank you for the round of applause. How cool did that look? And we know that it's available for pre-order right now. This will be released on January 23rd, so you don't have long to wait. And we would love to see you all pre-order because we want to get exactly this kind of content up in the algorithm. Because the whole reason somebody like me is at Sundance right now is because we have, yes, please, sorry, please join, is because there's a need to see content like this. And I love that a festival like Sundance is acknowledging it, recognizing it, and giving space to incredible filmmakers like these two, Simon and Oliver English, who are brothers and share a famous last name, and we'll get into all of that. But they've really carved out an incredible niche where they have been able to bring their history and their family business and food and talking about food and engaging with consumers to the big screen. And to places like this to engage with audiences in person, but then reach wider audiences once it actually is released. So we're gonna get into all of this. This trailer was a great little teaser into what we can expect, and we're gonna watch a segment a little bit later. So let's start with, why did you find this content to be something that was important to produce and to share with audiences? What's the backstory here?
Absolutely, and there have been so many incredible speakers today who have shed light on so many of these issues. And for us, as you said, thank you so much, we grew up in the restaurant business. Our parents are chefs, they met at cooking school, we grew up on the banquettes of their first restaurants as they were there 7 nights a week, working to get everything up and running. Everyone who's worked in a restaurant can probably attest to what that's like. And particularly as the oldest one in the Italian family, I grew into a role designing, developing, and opening restaurants around the world for many years. And several years ago, I was living and working in Abu Dhabi to open a new restaurant. And I was training the staff one night, and I ordered a big spread, and I looked down at all this food at a certain point and said, wait a minute, where did all this food come from? How did it get here? And I ended up having a long conversation with our chef, and it was 10 plus ingredients from 6 plus countries. We talked about the boats, planes, and trains it took to get there, when it might have been harvested. Then I saw how much food was being wasted. I realized that despite growing up in the restaurant business, studying hospitality in school, working for some incredible chefs around the world, I never really asked the question, where does food come from? And it was that moment of incredible disconnection that kind of began this journey. And a couple months later, I was opening another restaurant, and I sought out a local farmer to get some food for our restaurant. And I spent 3 hours with this guy named Sakane in the Bahamas. And he had a love and passion and joy for food and farming that was infectious. And I called my brother Simon, who's at the New York Film Academy at the time, and he said, let's film an interview with him. I was like, I don't know how to do that, what do you mean? And I said, okay, we'll give it a shot. So 3 months later, we filmed our first interview with Sakane. And after that weekend, we said, there's something here. If more people can meet farmers, we might be able to change the way that people see food, and in turn, change the way people see their relationship with the planet.
Simon, you're a director, you're an editor, you're a cinematographer. So how are you bringing your skills to this project?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was mentioned before about the power of cinema to change someone's mind in an hour and 30 minutes. I mean, there's really nothing like filmmaking to bring the stories of people like farmers who aren't jumping up in front of people and telling their stories. Growing up, I saw the film Inconvenient Truth in science class in like the 5th grade, and it rocked my world. It was the first time I realized that the grown-ups weren't taking care of the planet in the way that I thought they were. And it was a very specific moment where I realized, A, we're not looking so good in terms of what the planet's gonna look like when I grow up, and B, the power of cinema to change my mind at such a young age. Cinematography, editing, sound design, score, or storytelling, subjects, most importantly, it has a remarkable ability to change people's minds within a very short amount of time. And I just thought, more people need to meet farmers, and filmmaking has a very specific way of doing that, so yeah.
And the whole reason that we're telling these stories and we're really having these conversations with farmers, bringing those conversations to different audiences, is to draw people in through something that they do every day, which is eat food, right? And then bring them in through something that they're familiar with to a bigger picture. And that bigger picture is really that our planet is rapidly changing. We know the planet is warming, and we know that's impacting food systems. And Oliver, you as a food and chef advocate, right? How did you decide to take the food angle on this, aside from the obvious, but then also bring it and tie it to this bigger picture of climate?
Yeah, absolutely. It really was that first chance encounter with a farmer, and that led to an ongoing journey. Originally through the lens of the restaurant business, we started meeting with nutritionists and educators and policymakers, and they would introduce us to a climate scientist. And it was this kind of evolving journey where we asked that question: why is it that people aren't asking questions about where food is coming from? Where is that big disconnect? And this incredible cast of characters who we were able to meet and film with and had the joy of a lifetime, honestly, of filming with, would kind of present themselves. And we learned over the course of a couple of years just how deeply interconnected all of these issues were and how powerful of a force that can be. And when we do understand where our food's coming from and we shift the methods of our consumption and the methods of our production and the farmers that we support, we transition from having a degenerative, negative impact on the world around us, the biodiversity, the forest, the farms, the soil, to a holistic, regenerative impact on the environment, on our own bodies, and on the communities that we live within. So it really was this evolving journey of discovery that kind of connected the dots for us. And that's what we're trying to do now as well, is say, if we can ask the question about where food comes from, we can begin this bigger dialogue about the positive impact we can have on the environment.
Okay, and so you've been doing this for a while now. It's been several years. You started Common Table Creative together, and that's two brothers working together pretty closely, right? So I'm gonna go to the little brother first on this because I feel like it's more honest of an answer.
That's not me, by the way.
No, I know. You're twins as far as it matters. Okay, so what's it like working with your brother? I mean, is there some rivalry there? Is it fun? Is it like, you know, some healthy competition? How is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag. I mean, it's so funny. We get this question all the time, and it's like, what he's good at, I'm terrible at, and what he's bad at, I like to think I'm good at. You know, he's, you know, King Schmooze. If you guys haven't talked to him, he'll charm anyone in this room.
I never heard that. I like that.
Yeah,
King
King
Schmooze.
Schmooze. Yeah, spread the word. I'm a little quieter. I'm not as good with my words. But we don't step on each other's toes because I stay in the editing room and behind the camera, and Oliver does the producing, gets us on the farms, and he's done an incredible job. I'll be like, dude, I need to be on like 2 organic farms next week, and he's like, done. It's amazing, and like it's such a great collaboration and great yin and yang that we never really have a chance to step on each other's toes. And the rivalry, you know, a little healthy brotherly rivalry.
Okay.
You know.
All right. Do we get to see some of that in the documentary?
No, it's all behind the scenes. You know.
So everyone here is in for a treat. We're going to be able to watch a segment soon, not just yet, but I'd like to cue it up and ask you all, what made you, first of all, choose this scene? Why is it like a good example of the documentary? Because I would say, as somebody who's had a chance to see it, you're identifying a nexus that, again, is very relevant to everyone and everyone's everyday, food and health. So explain that a little bit. What was the kind of thinking behind it?
Absolutely. I think one of the big things that we want to touch on in this film, and it's been spoken about by so many eloquent speakers here today, is the great power of food, the transformational power of food to heal our bodies, to heal the planet, to heal our communities. And for us, we were fortunate enough to meet this amazing woman in the film, Lisa McDowell, who has just the most incredible story about food, going back to food as a powerful vehicle for healing. You know, and food is medicine, and food was and has been medicine in cultures and, you know, in parts of the world for hundreds and, you know, thousands of years. And this is really a simplistic look at that truth. And in this film, we really look at, here are practical, tangible, working examples that are out there right now, that have been around for years, in how we're going to fix agriculture, how we're going to fix our healthcare system, and how we're going to fix our education system. And it's not some faraway, you know, tech thing that we have to, you know, dream up that we don't have access to yet. We have the solutions right now. And it's about the large-scale awareness of those solutions, the acceptance, the implementation of those solutions. That's one of the reasons I'm so grateful for, you know, gatherings like this, is because we get to share really positive examples of solutions that are working. And so this is, I think, one of the most potent and simple, ultimately, examples of a solution, an interconnected solution that is deeply powerful, and I think a lot of us can connect with some of the challenges that Lisa went through, and can see food as an incredible solution.
So the climate behavioral scientist in me loves that, right? Because the whole point is, if we're going to make the climate crisis relevant to people, we need to make it tangible. We need to make it urgent. We need to make it visceral. We need to make it salient. And that's something that this documentary does so well. And this segment really, I think, exemplifies that. Again, before we tee it up, I'm going to ask you, Simon, what is it about the visuals that audiences should get excited about? What was it about? How did you choose to share the story in a way that would not just the content, but the actual experience of watching it would become relevant for audiences?
That's a really good question.
Oh, sorry, it wasn't on the list. I said.
Yeah, I know, curveball. I rehearsed in the mirror. This was not in my rehearsal. Let me think. Well, the forces that we're up against that have, media that is highest quality, that's selling you the wrong thing, they have the ability, and they have all these, think tanks, and they know how to get into the minds of consumers and get them to make the wrong choice. So I try to at least have the same caliber of cinematography, editing, sound design, score as them, to try to make the consumer make the right choice. So I think shot choice, selection, camera movements, it's so incredibly powerful, and it elicits such an emotional response from the viewer that it has to be potent, it has to be beautiful, and it has to be captivating to change the minds of the consumer.
Okay, well, we'll let this audience here decide for themselves. Let's take a sneak peek at this segment. You can get a little glimpse of what to expect in the full documentary. Again, it comes out January 23rd. Tell me how you met this family and what drew you to them.
Lisa, we had, it was, along the journey, it's amazing how you meet certain people and they're like, oh, you gotta talk to this person, you gotta talk to this person, you follow some leads, and some people you really, really connect with. One of our producers introduced me to Lisa, and I called her out of the blue, and we had like a 3-hour conversation about this vision for the film, which back in those days was just a very, very simple idea.
Quite vague.
Quite vague, very vague. But she invited us out to film with her, and we went out for a couple days and we filmed with Lisa. And we came back and we realized that we needed to go back again and kind of redo a lot of it. Very humbling process filmmaking is. But Lisa has become one of our dear friends and an absolute hero in this movement. And what honestly kept us going, myself going over the years, was the incredible passion and dedication of every single person in this film. And us as filmmakers having the opportunity and the joy to help bring their story to life. Lisa was doing this regardless of we made the film or not. She was doing this because she believed deeply in the healing power of food. And that's the kind of person that we want to celebrate. That's the kind of person that we need to cherish in our society. Those are the often unseen folks who really deserve to have their story told. So every single person in our film, Lisa, Thabiti, and Mark, who are on that poster, and a number of other folks, are really the heroes in this food movement, like so many of you out here today. But really, it was just that passion and dedication that we thought people need to see this.
What stands out to me so much is these concepts, and I've been working in climate and studying this for 20 years at this point, and some of this stuff is abstract, right? It's hard to explain to individuals that the sea levels are rising and what that means, and capturing images isn't that easy either. I mean, you're going to farms to capture these stories. Imagine like having to go out and capture video footage of the glaciers melting and whatnot. And it's not always interesting. I mean, it's intense seeing it firsthand, but it doesn't always transfer so well to the screen. So tell me about some challenges you faced with that, Simon, because you're literally bringing abstract concepts to audiences in a tangible way. Yeah. We're talking about medicine, we're talking about climate and health and food. How did you bring these concepts to screen in a way that really resonated?
A lot of it was like what not to include, because every single one of these people we filmed with just had an enormous amount of amazing information, and it was like, okay, that's amazing, but they go into 50 different things and it gets super specific. And we were trying to do with this film is keep it a little more high level and digestible for the audience. So it was always, okay, is this something that we can show someone and they don't need to know every single aspect of like, okay, why does this do this, this, and this, in terms of like how the compounds of a tomato help pancreatic cancer. It's more about a broader understanding of what's happening on the screen and trying to make it as digestible as pun intended, as digestible as possible. So we always just kept coming back to that. It's like, okay, simplify, simplify, simplify. You know, keep it entertaining, hopefully, and just keep it moving and just keep it exciting and just, you know, these people had such an amazing stories to tell. It was just like, let's not mess it up. Let's just get it and do it right and make sure that they're proud of their stories. So just always coming back to that idea.
Okay, I love that. And this is something we've had a chance to discuss, Oliver. So it's really important for you, for both of you, to be able to tell stories in a way that reaches audiences that are not like your typical audiences in this space, right? If you're in this room, you care about these topics. But we need to move beyond just us. This is why it's so important for us to share these stories with our networks and make it as popular and as relevant as pop culture, as politics, as sports. We should be talking about climate and solutions to climate and food systems in the same way we're talking about, you know, Taylor Swift. So
that would be amazing if we can get that level.
Okay, we'll work on getting Taylor Swift. But I know this is something that's really important to you, right? So how do we reach beyond the circles that we're already in, and so that we're not really preaching to the choir, but drawing in wider audiences?
That's a great question, and that is the question. One of the things that really struck me when I first met that farmer in the Bahamas, I asked him after a couple hours of walking around this farm, I said, Sakani, he seemed like to be pretty wise, you know, gentleman and might have some insight. And I said, Sakani, how do we get people to really change? And he said, man, we can't point a finger at them and tell them that what they've been doing is bad. No one likes to be told that what they've been eating is bad, you know, what their mom cooked for them is bad. That's not a good way to get people to change. He said, you've got to say, come and take my hand. Let's go take a walk and see what we discover. And that guiding philosophy, I think, shaped and inspired a lot of our filmmaking over the years. And with the film as well, we kind of actively avoided things that were automatically very prickly, automatically, you know, things that were going to turn people off right away, because we realized that as amazing as this environmental and food movement is, and we are grateful to be parts of it with so many leaders here today, we need to reach beyond the folks who already get it. We need to reach to our very MAGA grandmother. You know, we need to reach to all other parts of our society.
Everybody's got one.
Everybody. Oh yeah, it's for sure. But she likes film.
I love my Noma.
We love her too. She's amazing.
We just turn off the Fox. We talk about cookies. That's about it. Sorry, go on.
It's very true.
Love you, Noma.
But if we, as a movement, as a food movement, as an environmental movement, are to achieve the scale of change, the scale of impact that we need to achieve in the limited time that we have left to do so, we need to include so many more people into the fold. And so I think for us, it's about how do we find messages, how do we find common elements of this movement that speak to people. Let's talk about soil, let's talk about conservation, let's talk about national security, if you want to talk about national security. Let's find areas that we can agree on. And for us, part of making this film was we really want to reach broader audiences. And like Simon said, we don't talk about every single issue. We could talk about food waste, we could talk about health, we could talk about regenerative ag for a 10-part docuseries easily. Our friends at FarmLink have done a great job with that. Friends at Common Ground are doing an amazing job with regenerative ag. There's incredible films that are really touching on so many of these issues. Our goal was really to try to be an introductory course to these issues for so many people and say, hey, it's not you, it's the system that has been set up for decades that we all grew up in that has created these conditions. But now that we're aware of it, what can we do to take steps to move in a more positive direction?
Sure.
And how do we inspire people to have that moment of reflection internally where they say, oh, you know what, I did have an aunt who had cancer. You know, my child is getting sick, et cetera, and, you know, begin that inquiry on their own. Because I think only when people feel like they themselves want to make that change, want to have that inquiry, are they going to actually start to do that.
Yeah.
That's how we move the needle.
I love it. So it's not about making people feel guilty. It's really about raising awareness, recognizing that the onus of responsibility is not on the individual necessarily, but now that there's this awareness, what can we do to really engage with the environment to be better stewards of the planet? That's intrinsically something we can share as humans, and I think your documentary goes a long way in doing that. So now, this all looks great, right? We know it's going to be beautiful. We got our sneak peek, and so all of that we're going to see is that end product. But we know it wasn't easy to get there, right? What were some of the challenges, Simon? Let me come to you. What were some of the challenges you experienced in the making of this documentary?
Oh my God.
How much time do you guys have?
This is it's the first film I've ever made. So it was just nonstop, just like hitting walls and being like, what the is how? I just in the editing room by myself, just like, dude, what am I doing? Like, I just don't know how to tie all these stories together. These are such amazing people. I don't want to let them down. What was the question?
The enormous amounts of challenges we face.
Oh yeah, I mean, just the challenge of just, you know, every day just pushing the rock up the hill, and just Oliver. Honestly, if I didn't have my brother to keep on being like, dude, you need to keep moving this thing forward, I would never. It would have been on a hard drive in my closet for, you know, to 2050. But there's an enormous amount of challenges, and just the motivation to keep going. Just trying to be inspired and to try to find those little nuggets that just keep us going.
So what have you learned? Let me come to you. What have you learned?
Yeah.
So you had these challenges, and this obviously is the first of many, right? We wish you so much success in this release, and we know there's more to come. What have you learned?
We have learned that we have the solutions right now, today. We've had them for a couple years, actually. We are facing, as we all know, a myriad of deeply interconnected challenges, environmentally, health-wise, societally. I don't need to go into all those right now. The positive thing is that there are incredibly hardworking people around the country and around the world who, in their small corner of the world, have decided that the system is broken and they're just going to go ahead and make a change. These are not people who have a ton of resources. These are not people who are celebrities. These are not people who can just go and do things, you know, without any consequence. These are people who said, this system is broken. I'm going to go build the first working farm on a hospital campus. I'm going to go transition and regenerate one of the biggest pieces of land in the Midwest to an agroecological system. I'm going to go ahead and transform the way that we think about access to healthy food in our school system. And for people to do that with so little resources is so deeply inspirational to us. Like, we understand how to fix the climate crisis. We know that a regenerative, holistic food system is the key to healing our bodies, to healing our communities, and to healing the planet. We know all of this. But right now, I think we are at a pivotal moment in the food movement. And I'm honestly grateful to the folks at Food Tank. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Kenzie. Thank you, your entire team. Because it is gatherings like this that are critical to the movement gaining steam and spreading in a really positive way. I look out today, and I know not everyone, but I know many of you here. And you know, I see entrepreneurs, filmmakers, philanthropists, farmers, passionate people who love food. If I'm missing anyone, forgive me. But looking out today is deeply inspiring, because if we are going to achieve the change that we need to achieve in the time that we have left, we cannot do this alone. We will not do this alone. We will fail unequivocally. But when we stand together in a group like this, as one community, as one family, as one movement, we are unstoppable. And believe that. So we have the solutions today. We know what they are. We have simplified them in our film, and there are so many other films who are doing the exact same thing, who are shedding light on the solutions we have today. So now it's up to all of us in every way that we can to magnify those solutions in our own little community, at the farmer's market, at the grocery store, at restaurants, when we elect politicians. It's up to all of us to make these changes. But rest assured that there are hardworking folks around the country who are doing this every day. And as a great quote from Mark Shepard, I don't want to ruin the film, but he says, feeding tomorrow are the people that grow food and the people that eat food, working together to transform the entire ecology of our planet. And in doing so, transforming our relationship with each other and our own health and everyone in our communities. And that's what we have the capacity to do right now. So thank you.
Nice. Okay, Oliver, talk about a mic drop. We don't need
King
Taylor Swift.
Schmooze. I told you, everybody. King Schmooze.
We're just gonna clone you, and we're gonna solve the climate crisis, one documentary at a time. What do you hope, Simon, that the audience takes away from this?
Oh my God. This happens every time. I'm like, dude, you said like
someone's got to make the film, so that's why we're a good team.
I mean, yeah, it's possible. I mean, it takes, these people are doing these like thankless jobs every single day, and it's just so hard, and like they just don't get any praise. And like they're doing it whether there's a camera there or not. And it just like that's so badass, and I just hope everyone can be inspired from the stories that we told and the people in our film. So yeah.
Okay, I love it. So where and when can audiences watch the documentary?
Oh, you shouldn't have asked. Thank you. We are very proud to announce that next Tuesday, January 23rd, Feeding Tomorrow will be on demand on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and Google Play. Thank you. Woo! We'll clap for that. All right. And eventually, the film will be available in schools and on airlines as well. We want to democratize this information and to get it to as many people as possible. So please go and pre-order, tell your friends. Again, we don't want to point fingers, but say, hey, go watch this film. Let's go have a bite to eat. Let's see what we discover. So thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Jen.
Did we do it?
Yep.
No, we did it.
We did it.
Awesome.
Thank you all so much for being here. Appreciate you all.
Thank you.